Hello again. Oops. Echo. I didn't notice. Okay. Always got to have some kind of technical difficulty. Every time. Especially when I'm coming off a big, long break from streaming. But even when you're doing it every day, you tend to make little mistakes. It's all part of the live streaming experience because you don't edit and rehearse in advance. It's all just on the fly. Okay. So picking up where I left off, I was going to say yesterday, but it's actually still the same day as my previous stream. So I'm going to try to finish this book, or at least, well, maybe not completely finish it, but get the cover on. And it's going to go really slow because I haven't done a cover in a long time. Plus, I'm also going to do a different kind of cover than I've done before. So I'm kind of just brainstorming. I've been just sitting here and pondering what I'm going to do for a while. I have a basic idea what I think I'm going to try. I don't know if it's going to work. I hope it does. But I have all these little strategies kind of in my mind of how this is going to go. And I just hope it turns out. Mainly the challenge I have is that this is a much bigger book than I've done before, so the tolerances are different in the measurements. And I also want to, well, in order to explain what I was about to say, I need to look at some of these books, and I'm just going to do some of my brainstorming on stream here, which might or might not be interesting, but so these are books that I've finished here in the past. Most of my books are made somewhat similarly, with a similar manner anyway. And usually what I do on the spines is I wrap this cover material around the back so that it hugs the spine pretty tightly. There's not really a gap here until you open it. So this is an example of one of my more recent ones that I finished with the magnetic flap cover. And I'm hoping to do most of my smaller books this way in the future because I really like how it protects the ends of the pages. And in the past I used to make these with the elastic cover, the elastic closure, and they work fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is I've come to understand that elastic doesn't last forever or even particularly long time. It starts degrading, loses its stretch basically, kind of like a rubber band will over time. And while that's still okay, it'll probably work for years to come, I don't like the idea that it won't be tight anymore. And eventually it could actually disintegrate, you know, maybe in a decade or two. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't have any books that are so old like that. I do have some journals, not ones that I made, but ones that I bought. So I used to work for an art supply company, and I have some pretty old ones from those, and indeed the elastic has no more stretch to it. It's just loosely hanging on there, but they haven't like disintegrated or snapped off or anything. They just don't hold, you know. They hold the book closed. It's not like they entirely loosen and become floppy or anything. It's just that they essentially, if you have it stretched out holding something, it'll eventually have no stretch at that particular position. But you could pull it out more and like put 2 books inside of there, for example, and it would be stretchy again for another couple of years, and then it's like it gets used to the position that it's held in and loses that amount of stretch over time. But it doesn't lose 100% of its elasticity until if you like stretched it to its maximum and held it in that position for a few years, then it would lose all of its stretch entirely. Anyway, that seems to be essentially how elastic works. and it's annoying. And because of that, I've stopped making them this way, even though it's kind of a nice way to make books. It's pretty easy, and well, it's easy compared to the magnetic flap ones that I've been doing more recently, because it's a lot of work to get the magnets embedded inside of this book board. I have magnets, can't see them, but they're inside here, and there's matching ones inside here, and that's what keeps it closed, and it's a lot of work to get those in there. Not only that, but just measuring everything so that this closes with not too much slack, so that it has a weird sloppy looking arch there, but also not so tight that this, you know, tends to want to stay open like that. So it's really tough to get those measurements exact. Either too tight or too loose is easy to do. Anyway, but that's kind of where I want to go with my future journals, is doing the magnetic flaps. But this one here is an entirely different story. I'm not going to do any closure on it. I'm just going to make a book that is just, you know, a normal book. Like, here's another example of that. So this doesn't have a magnet or elastic keeping it closed. It's just a regular book. And it stays closed, which is nice. Unfortunately, it has a little bit of arch to the covers. You can see this bowing in the middle, and that sometimes happens. It's not the end of the world, but so I don't think it'll happen on this one because I made these extra thick covers. It's double thick, really sturdy. They shouldn't have any bow in them at all. Be very surprised if they did. So that shouldn't be an issue. However, because they're double thick, all the measurements that I normally do to space these boards apart, like I did in my last video, like how far should these be apart in order to wrap around and, you know, come around to where they should be here. It's kind of unknown. I'm kind of guessing, hoping that it'll work out right. So there's no major gap around the spine, but it's not too tight. Like, if you make it too tight and you hug the spine, it looks really nice, but if it's too tight, the covers will just want to raise open because it'll be too tight. So you have to get it. It's probably better to have a little bit loose so it closes properly. It doesn't have too much tension on the spine. But anyway, I have to figure all that out today, because I want to finish this book on this stream. So I think what I decided, I have these positioned, I have this spacer here, but I think what I'm going to do is actually space these out a little bit more than I have here. Possibly as much as 2 millimeters out, or 2 millimeters wider than this spacer. So I might just make a new spacer to make it easier to assemble. I could just like eyeball these and push them out a little bit, but then I wouldn't know for sure that it's aligned. It's safer just to make a spacer. So I need to make that spacer, and then the other challenge I have is normally what I'll do is I'll take a sheet of paper. It's not this paper exactly, it's a kind of a thick paper, but I am also going to use this paper for something today. But so let's say I cut out basically a paper that's about 1 inch overlapping onto the board on either side, and then also bridging the gap of this empty space between the boards. So I'd cut a sheet like this big and then the same height as the boards, and then I would glue that across and push it down into this recessed area and then back up onto this board. And that's how I come up with these pretty smooth rounded edges on my books. So if you look close, you'll notice that these are just kind of a perfect arch around the back of the book, which is not necessarily normal. Most books don't have that. This one in particular, I didn't get my measurements quite right, so you can see a little gap up here between the book and the the cover, which isn't really bad. It looks fine. No one would ever think that's a problem. But if you look even closer, it may be hard to see on camera, but get it to focus. Yeah, it's kind of dark, but you can kind of see that the cover material comes all the way out from the outside, and then there's like a gap right here. Shoot, it's not focusing again. It's so dark too. Basically, there's a gap between these pages and either side of the board, right up here where the meet. I'm not talking about the arch on the back. I'm talking about like right where they meet. And that's caused because of what I just described a minute ago, where I pushed this paper down into this recessed area like that. But what I want to do on this thicker book is I want the cover material to be to reverse the process. I want this page to be pretty flat on the inside, maybe it pushed a little bit recessed down this way, here and here. But I kind of want the cover material to make up more of the difference and be indented in towards that center of those boards. It's kind of hard to describe it. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, like, imagine this is the profile of one of those book boards, really zoomed in, has a thickness to it. Here's the end of the book board, and say this is the cover material on the outside of it. Basically what I want is, instead of it having this gap here where there's all this space right here, I want this to like bend in towards the middle, at least towards the middle, possibly all the way to the other side of the board. And normally that paper that's on the inside is the one that's hugging out towards the outside. So I'm kind of reversing it. I'm going to try that. And the reason is, I think on a big book like this with all the little ingredients and pieces that I'm constructing for the spine, I think it'll open a little bit better if it has that structure to it. It's just a theory. I don't really know if it's true, but anyway, I'm going to try that. And it's going to be challenging though, because I need to make a spacer that's as thick as these boards, so that I can slip that under here. So like, imagine this is what I'm talking about. Put this under here in the center so that it pushes up that center area. You can kind of see it bulging up. Let me see the shadow here. I want it to bulge that up so that when I glue this, that center area will be raised up, and the glue will come up here towards the center of the thickness of these boards. So that's what my goal is. I need to cut special spacer not only a little bit wider, but thicker than this board here. I don't know if I have any scraps. What I probably will end up doing is making two spacers that are a little bit wider, same height as these, and just stack them on top of each other. They don't need to be glued together necessarily, but as long as they're just under here and pretty thick, I think that's gonna work. It'll help anyway. Otherwise, I would have to like flip this over while I'm gluing it and push against the side of those boards, and that would be hard to do. So also, I made a mistake during my last stream that it's not too late to fix it, thankfully, because I haven't glued yet. But what I did when I was trying to figure out which of these boards is the front and which is the back, I did it kind of correctly in one sense, but it actually ended up being incorrect in the sense that I'm working on now. It's a mirror image, just like I was talking about. So this is the front normally, and this is the back, because the ribbon's on the top like that. So this says front on it, and I wrote back here, but it's actually the opposite, because I'm going to be gluing them on the inside of the book cloth here, and then this is going to be reversed around the book. It's actually upside down, so really In reality, these should be flipped. Like this one should be over here and this one should be over here. And the reason that matters is because I spent a lot of time during my last stream rounding off this particular corner right here, and it's supposed to be on the inside near the spine on the outside of the book. So these should be facing down that way so that that rounded corner gets built into the fabric side here. So just so I don't confuse myself here, I'm going to put them how I had them yesterday. I'm going to erase these, erase all my markings here, and put my markings on the other side so that I don't accidentally get these backwards. It's very confusing stuff. I mean, even if you're watching this video and later when I upload it to YouTube or whatever, you might be like, what is he talking about? But watch my previous video, which nobody will do. It's like 3 hours long, to know what I'm talking about. And I did actually upload that video to YouTube and also on Odyssey. So I'm going to give that platform a try. The only thing with Odyssey is they have a 10 gigabyte upload limit, and since it was a 3-hour 1080p video, I had to downsize it to 720p, which I don't think they support 1080p on Odyssey anyway, at least not for the free users. So I got it under the limit and uploaded it. It takes forever to upload such a long video, but it's on YouTube and Odyssey now. I'll eventually put links to those channels in my Glimish about section, but for now I'm not too concerned about it. It's more, the main reason I wanted to get those videos on there is kind of like a backup, since I don't have VODs or replays on Glimish. And it's not really that important. Like, I've streamed for 3 years without saving any of my replays, but I don't know, I just kind of thought it'd be fun to try it. It might get tedious and burdensome to upload every video after I'm done streaming, and I might not do it for very long, but I'm going to start out doing that. Just make a habit of it and see how it goes. I'm not going to edit them or anything, they're just going to go straight up as they were recorded live, so we'll see. I don't think anybody's going to watch them, they're so long, unless they find them relaxing or something. Okay, so what am I doing? I need to get that pad of paper, or the empty pad back of it, to cut some more of these spacers, I guess. So let's do that. And just like yesterday, I'll be taking some breaks for my allergies or cold or whatever it is. It's just not seeming to want to go away. I think I'll do a standing stream for a while, maybe the whole time, until I get tired of standing, at least. Sometimes it's just easier to do that. Okay, where's, I don't know where the one I cut yesterday is. I guess I'll just cut a new one, doesn't matter. As long as these are tall enough. Looks like they're just barely. Okay, so I think I'm going to go, like I said, an extra millimeter on both sides, so actually 2 millimeters wider than this, so that each board gets pushed out a millimeter. So this one's 6.4, so I need to do 6.6 wide. Get this out of the way. Check to see if this is square. I would think it would be, since it's a pad of paper, but you never know. Looks pretty straight. So So I can use this edge. I don't have to cut off a little bit to make it square. It should be square enough. So we'll just make it 6.6 centimeters. A little bit short of 6.6, but it's good enough. Something's not right here, I think. I get the feeling that's not straight. Ouch. Weird. I poked myself with my pencil. That's weird. I think I've ever done that before. Okay. Let's just start over. It wasn't that far off, but it's enough that just annoyed me. Oh, actually, well, nah, this is fine. One of these should be 6.6, so I can use it as a spacer, but in reality, once the purpose of spacing is done, I really should... this is complicated, actually. I need them to be a little bit short of 6.6 because... Maybe you're thinking this, you're like thinking a million steps ahead of me and like, wait a minute, why is he making them that size? Reason being, they need to be a little bit shorter than 6.6 because these are going to be space 6.6. So I'm going to use one of them as a spacer like that. But in order to get the bottom boosted up, they really need to be a little bit narrower so that they can fit under here, in between these two, and when you push up, kind of arcs the paper so it won't have its full width potential. So maybe I should make 3 of these. One of them actually 6.6, and then the other 2 just a little bit narrower so they can fit underneath there. So I didn't think of that. There's all these stupid little details that you gotta think about, and it's hard to think of all that when you're doing it for the first time. Let's just cut another one of these at 6.6, and then I'll cut 2 of these a little bit narrower. Oh, before I forget, I need to do that erasing the markings and putting them in the right spot. Otherwise, I'm gonna get that screwed up for sure. I'll do that right now before I forget. Need my eraser. I have this eraser, but I don't want to keep using that because I have a dedicated click eraser somewhere. If I can find it is the question. The desk is still in quite a disarray because I haven't arranged it since my big mess that I put on here. There it is. Okay, we're good. Alright, let's get these figured out. Normally front would be over here and back would be over here, but not in this case. Make sure to get these little eraser pieces off of here too, the little debris. I'm just thinking out loud, but that would cause problems when I'm making the cover if I have these little bumps underneath. Keep my surface clean. So now, this is going to be the front, so the reverse of what you would think, because it's a mirror image, and then this is the back. And now those rounded corners are going to be facing the fabric when I glue them on. So normally it doesn't matter which way I glue them on. I can do it upside down, reverse, anything, because they're all the same. But in this case, I specifically rounded this corner for that specific purpose, so it needs to be in an exact position. Okay, so now I need to cut off a little bit, 2 of these. Guess I should, do I need to make these the same height? Nah, doesn't matter. Normally, I mean, I would think to make these spacers the same height as the boards, but it doesn't it doesn't matter. Makes no difference in this case. In fact, it's probably better if they're a little bit taller. But I do need to... Where's my pen? Oh, there it is. I'll keep that one. I'll probably never use it again, but I should have a big old box of template pieces that I can reuse. These ones aren't really going to be specific. I guess I could make them specific. I have to figure out how much thinner to make them. I'm kind of thinking however thick this is, twice, cutting that much off. So they are... I could just put both of them together and get the total. Cut that much off, approximately. Pretty stinking thick. 0.6. I'll cut off about 0.6 on those, and that should work okay. So if this is 6.6, then I'll make these 6. That's good. Have a 6 centimeter template or jig piece. That's probably useful for something down the line, possibly. Might be cutting off too much. I want to cut off enough that they can fit under there. Perfect. Alright, what's next? So here's my 6.6 spacer, so just line that up with the previous crop marks, just put it in the center of them. I think I'll make new crop marks, otherwise I'll put these in the wrong place probably. Okay. Make these crop marks so that when I'm gluing it, I have easier time putting them in the right place. Okay, am I ready to glue finally? I think I might be. Oh, no, not quite. I'm gonna cut the papers first so everything is ready. Okay, here's a special paper that I like to use for anything that needs to be kind of long-lasting and sturdy. Typically use it for my spine pieces. Some people put a third board in the center of the spine, like this, except it wouldn't be that wide. And then there's a gap between the spine board piece and those two sides. I prefer to keep my spines flexible instead of having a tough board in there. But either way is a valid way to go. I've just not done the board in the middle, and I think there's probably benefits to doing that, but actually, ironically, every single book that I looked at, my dad has a ton of old books on his shelves down in the basement, and I pulled a bunch of them out. Not a single one had a hard rigid back to the spine. They all had the flexible spines, which doesn't mean that's a good thing, because some of those old books are falling apart too. It's possible that with the rigid spine it would last longer, but then you'd have two rigid joints, actually four, a joint between the fabric and this, the fabric and that board in the middle, middle board again to the fabric, and the fabric to the other side. So you'd have like 4 places that could move and wear out, as opposed to only 2 here, and there's a lot more flexibility this way. But I don't know, it's all theoretical. It's hard to prove it unless you have a bunch of old books over 50 years and compare them, which ones last longer. So anyway, okay, so here's where I cut that piece of paper that overlaps both sides. So oops, that's not the right spacer. Get this in place. And now I can measure this piece. Every single piece of paper that you use in bookbinding, or even the boards themselves, need to know what the grain direction is, and in this case the grain is going the length of the paper instead of the width. You can usually tell by just folding it like this, whichever way resists the least. is you're folding it along the grain. So that's this direction. There's other ways to tell. Sometimes you can see it, like if you hold it up to the light, going at an extreme angle, you can see the shadows of the grains. This one I've used it so often, I'm just kind of familiar, but I always check it just to be sure. So line it up with the top. Let's get my ruler here. I do about an inch on either side. In this case, I'm going to do maybe a little bit more than an inch, since it has to dip down into that recessed area. It doesn't matter. I think an inch is fine, just for consistency. Let's get this lined up here. Okay, however wide that is, just cut that down the page, and then I need to know how tall these boards are. Like about 20.8. Maybe 20.85. Yeah. A little bit more than 20.8. Okay, so let's get all this out of the way. So 20.8. And then I use this for the width. Going at this at a snail's pace because I'm just doing something so unusual here, something I don't normally do. Oh, the other thing I need to check is square of this paper. Often this particular paper, I happen to remember, is not always square from the factory, so I might need to cut a slit of paper off the top here. Yeah, let's cut that to be straight before I use it. Love it when it moves like that. Okay. Blade must be getting dull. Shouldn't take that many passes to get through this paper. Yeah, it's pretty dull. Guess it's probably time to change that. Don't know if the other side is used yet. Looks like it is. So, time for a new blade, I guess. Always a little bit of oil on these, so I like to wipe them off before I start using them, so it doesn't make any kind of marking on my paper. Usually have some napkins sitting on my desk, but don't at the moment. I'll grab one real quick. See the oil marking there just from the blade. Keeps the blades from rusting, but not so good to get on your handicrafts. Okay, so these two edges are square. I like to mark them. I don't have a universal marking. I just forget to do that, and then I have to measure it again. Looks like 11.6 something, almost 7. 11 point, just under 11.7. And then 20.8 this way. This isn't big enough. Okay, so that should be the right size for this spacer here, or the bridge between the two boards. One thing I like to do is mark where it goes. So I put the little marks 1 inch on either side. All this is in preparation. It just makes it a little bit faster and more worry-free when I'm actually applying it. So if I put these marks on there, then after I put glue on the back of it, I can just line it up with these little dots and know that it'll be in the right place. So I put glue on the back of this and I'm like frantically, oh, where does it go? Where does it go? Where does it go? Gotta line it up with those little dots and know that it's right where it needs to be. Okay, here we go. That one's ready. The only other thing I need to prepare before I start gluing is the little pocket on the spine, which this is actually the first time I've made one of these, except maybe when I first started learning bookbinding. I don't normally make these. I'm gonna take a quick break though. That singer reminds me of They Might Be Giants. Your similar voice. Some Skittles. No, I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by anybody. That'll never happen, I don't think. Maybe if I show things on my stream enough, I'll get the attention of some sponsors. Not likely. Okay, so this is the other unknown thing. It's going to take me a while to figure out. I have to kind of just look at what I have here and just make a decision. So I got my cover material. Actually, to make this even more clear, I should call this one right. This one left. This is so confusing. It's the opposite of what I would think. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna fold a little pocket for the back, and I have to figure out how big it should be. Complicated. I'm gonna make it basically the same width as this gap. I think. Might turn out bad. I don't like these pocket things. Actually, it needs to be a little bit inside. Maybe I could use that 6 spacer as the guide. Might work. I'll explain all this a little bit later, possibly. I can't explain it right now. I don't even know if I need this pocket on the back. It's going to cause me issues, that's for sure. Okay, I think I got it. It needs to be a little bit in from the sides, I think. But it also needs to be a little bit shorter than the height of this book. I think I got it. Okay, so I'm going to make it 6 wide. Yeah, that should work. Okay, so I need to cut another piece of paper. Where did I have that one that I had out at the beginning of the stream? Needs to be a more flexible paper because it's going to be folded over itself. This is the grain direction going this way. Okay, let's check. This one is square also. It might not be. Close. Okay. I'll make it 14 wide. Height, it needs to be, let's say, I like this song. I like the melody anyway. Probably 3 short on either side, so 20.8 minus 0.6 is 20.2. Let's make it 20.2 tall. So the width is 13 because I'm going to fold it in half. So I'm going to fold 6 of it here. left an extra centimeter because it needs to fold over again and be glued together to make like a loop that'll open up this way. Little Dairy Queen symbol. Like that. Actually, I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me use my scoring tool to make that a little bit easier. Okay, so I just fold this there, and then this goes over this side and gets glued. Might have been better to make that in the middle, but doesn't really matter. And then we have a closed loop like that, which is what I'm going after. That is going to get glued into the center of the spine. So I think I have all my pieces ready. I just have to glue everything now and do it fast enough that it doesn't dry while I'm working on it, but also not rush it so I don't make any stupid mistakes. This is a very fumbly little procedure here, and one that I've not done before, so hopefully I don't mess it up. Okay, I think I'm ready. Finally. Maybe. Okay, where's that piece? Other piece that I cut for the spine. Here it is. Okay, got all my stuff. Where's my spacer? Everything is within reach. Actually, let me get these books out of the way. I don't need them here anymore. Oh, one thing I need to get is wax paper. I need to go off camera for a minute to get that. I'll be right back. I don't think I have any here. I should, but I don't, so I'll be right back. Okay, got wax paper. It's actually parchment paper, but it works the same way for this purpose. Okay, I think I'm ready. Hopefully I don't panic and realize I'm missing something. I think I'm okay. All my pieces here ready to be glued. The first thing I think I'll do is glue this one shut. Should be pretty straightforward. Just glue this little piece on the end. Fold it over. I like to use shot glasses for glue, so I don't use too much glue and it doesn't dry out as quick on it's in a small space like that. I don't put much out there. This kind of glue dries very quickly, so PVA glue. Okay, I just fold that over. One thing I might want to do is put a strip of wax paper inside there. Oh shoot, the other thing I forgot to do, I'll do right now, is to cut this to its, or did I cut this to the right height? I probably did. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, it's a little bit shorter than these, which is what it should be. Okay, we're good. That one's ready. Next. Need to get my fabric up here. Next, I think I'm gonna place these in place. Just gonna eyeball what I have to do here, align them with my crop marks. All right, let's get ready to do that. Okay, I think for this big of a gluing thing, I might use my other glue. Let me think. It's probably good. Good idea. No, I don't have very much of it. I'm gonna have to mix more. That's fine. Okay, so this is a mix of methyl cellulose and PVA, about half and half or so. Gonna mix a little bit more. The reason I use this is when I need something to remain wet a little bit longer. While it's, while I'm brushing it on this larger surface area. If it dries out too fast, then half of it's dry before I get to lay it down. It dries that fast. It's like within a minute it's dry. Not completely, but it sets pretty fast. Where are those sticks? Here we go. Out of 60-40 is actually about right. 60% PVA and 40% methylcellulose. Might have too strong of a methylcellulose presence in this mix, but it should be okay. Methylcellulose keeps it wet a little bit longer, but it's also kind of glue, and PVA is very quick drying and very sticky, so it gives the mixture strength. So I want a bigger brush too. Where's my... I had a slightly bigger brush the other day. Let me think. This one's big, but it's... I don't know, it's kind of unruly, but I guess I'll use it. Ideally, I would just use straight PVA, but it just dries so quick I can't paint the surface fast enough. It's too sticky and problematic, so I'll use this mixture for these large surfaces. And for the smaller pieces that I'm gluing on, I'll just use straight PVA. Okay, get my fabric up here. Now's a challenge of getting this in the right place. Looks about right. Okay, and my roller on the other side. Set that aside while I glue the other one. This is typically the most stressful part of bookbinding, is putting the cover on, so you have to do a ton of gluing very quickly before it dries. That's why I did all that preparation of getting all those pieces ready in advance, so I wouldn't be panicking doing that at the last second while the clock is ticking on the drying glue. Always make sure to rub the glue off your fingers so you don't get it on other things, like the cover material especially. Looks about right.
Hey man, what's up? What's the tracks? You might have looked cool in the old town, but you're now in the land of fresh and dope. And if you wanna know, then through all the bro. Straight it out, freedom looking down your way. We're grooving in the 90s, know what to say. We're only ranges, but you've never seen moves like the way I twist and turn the groove. You see this ball? Well, that's my credo. Soon they kick and flip and fly like a torpedo. So for now, just relax and enjoy the show. I'ma swing it in, this whole world has to go.
Okay, both of those are set in position. Flip this over, and here's where I have to do all that weird stuff I was talking about. Raising the backside while I put the bridge between the two boards on. So I use these things that I made, put them under the center to raise it up. And I would like them to stay together. Maybe I should put just a little bit of glue in there so they don't move around. Nah, they're not going to stick with that little bit of glue. What can I do? Do I have tape? Didn't think of this little issue. They should be stuck together. Where's my tape? Grab my tape real quick. I don't know where it is. Problematic. See, this is where the panic sets in. I'm like, can't find what I'm looking for. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now this won't slide all over the place. Just get them kind of in the center there. And I can push down and that'll kind of force the fabric up this way. That's what I wanted. Okay, then when I glue this on, the different split between the two sides will come in towards the middle and actually be closer to this side, which is what I want. So I need to glue this on next. Actually, I'm going to use that same mix stuff, I think. Normally I would use PVA, straight PVA on this piece, but since it's so large, I'm going to use the mix. But because I'm using the mix, it won't be quite as sticky. It might lift up a little bit more than I would like it to, but let's keep working at it until it stays in place. Clean up all that glue that is on the table so it doesn't get on the outside of the cover. Always gotta be mindful, vigilant of all these stupid little things. Okay, now get this back in the center so it pushes up the area. Okay, that's as good as it's gonna get. Push the center in and start working out towards the boards until it meets. Okay, now that that's in position, hopefully it's still 6.6 apart. Looks like it should be, yeah. Okay, now I flip it over the other way. And you can see that the impression is greater on this side, which is what I was going for. So now I just push that around the edges. On my smaller books, normally this divot or recessed area would be on the inside, but I want it to be on the outside on this particular book. The reasons might or might not become apparent later as I'm putting it together. I think it makes sense to do it this way because the boards are so thick. Okay, next, this is where it gets really complicated. Actually, no. Before I do any of the next stuff, I need to glue this thing in here as well. Try to get it as centered as possible. Need to do this really quick before everything starts drying up. I mean, it's already drying up, but before it gets completely dry. See, which way should I do that? So it doesn't matter. That kind of does. I don't want this creased area to be on the outside cover because that could possibly create a bump on the outside. Not likely, but it might. We'll keep that on the inside. Try to get this centered in here if I can. Actually good that I don't have any viewers. This would be stressful if I was trying to have a conversation and doing this at the same time. Sometimes when I've done that on streams in the past, I've actually messed things up. Not concentrating. Okay, I think we're good now. Most of the stressful stuff is done. Well, that's not entirely true. I have to keep going. I'm gonna slow down here because I still have to get this glued. So this is the part that I was unsure of. Still not really sure. Basically what I have to do is I have to make little cuts in the fabric so that this folds over inside that. So I have that loop still there. It can open up in the center here. Right there. And the fabric needs to fold inside of that in the center, but on the outside of it, on beyond it. So that part was kind of baffling my brain for a minute when I was thinking or strategizing all this. So there's my scissors. So basically what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to angle these in like that so that it's easy to put inside of there. I'm not going to cut all the way to the edge so that there's no cut in the fabric on the outside. In theory, this should work. I've never done this before. So the distance between the edge of my cut and this should be the same as this and that, so that it folds inside there. Who knows if it'll work. Okay. Do the same here. Looks about right, so that when this folds over, it should go inside there. I believe that'll work. If not, I think it'll still be okay. Then the other thing I need to do is cut these off the corners. This fabric is really thick, so this might present a challenge as I'm getting this all together. That's all good, so now I'm ready to glue, I believe. This is where I probably want to use straight PVA, so let me seal up this other glue. This is typically where the glue gets, or not the glue, but the process gets a little frustrating and stressful because it doesn't want to stay down when you glue it. So you have to work at it for a while. And having the straight PVA, which is stronger glue, less likely to be problematic like that. Okay, where's the big piece? So I'm just folding in these edges one at a time. Glue. Actually, I don't think I'm going to use this big brush. I'm going to use a smaller one. Which of course is kind of dried out. Should have washed it. I want to get plenty of glue in this process. Or it won't stay down. But not so much that it squeezes a ton out the edges. Don't want to make a huge mess. Not sure about this tube. Tube is the word I should have been using this whole time, and that didn't come to mind. That tube in the middle, I don't know if it'll stay open or if it'll get glued shut. I might put a piece of parchment paper, wax paper, whatever, in there just to give it a fighting chance. Okay, here goes the potentially frustrating and stressful part. I need to open up this little tube and get that center part inside there somehow. This might prove impossible. Be very difficult anyway. Yeah, this is going to be almost impossible. Oh, there we go. That might work. These will go over the tube, the sides. This is where it would benefit me to have more overlap on the folds than 3/4 of an inch. Because the longer it is, the more likely it'll stick and wrap around and not want to fall off. But I've always had it work fine with this measurement, mainly because I typically use thinner fabric for the covers, so it's a little bit more pliable. When it's thick like this, it often doesn't want to wrap around and stay where you want, where you tell it to, so to speak. As long as you do it fast, though, before the glue starts drying on you, then that's usually when it gets really frustrating. I think this engineering that I came up with for this design should work pretty well, as far as I know. Looks like it's working just how I imagined it in my head. I was brainstorming this process. I think it'll work out just fine. The only other thing I could possibly do different is use, instead of paper for that tube in the middle, I could use like a really lightweight fabric, like cotton, really lightweight cotton or something. I think all in all that worked out pretty well, though. And I will have to put a piece of wax paper inside that tube, I'm pretty sure, especially when I glue this to the book itself. Okay, let's do the other side. Kind of happy with how my brain is working for this. Doing something I've never done before, and it really thought about all the details and it worked it out. Especially the way I cut these was exactly right. Could have easily done it wrong because it's the first time I've done it. I've never even watched anybody do this kind of thing. It's just kind of thought it out. Been doing bookbinding long enough that kind of stuff just brain thinks that way. When I first started doing this, I would have never thought of all these little details. I'd be doing it wrong 50 times, learning from my mistakes. But this time it seems to be inspired. No guarantees it'll work as well in the finished product as I think, but it looks like it's going to work fine. This is the most stressful part right here, is getting this tube open and that folded over inside of there. It's really not that hard. Fabric is wanting to lift off, I think, a little bit. Or actually, I think it's a deceptive shadow. I don't think it's actually coming off, just looks like it is. Okay. Corners might be a little bit wonky. Not wonky, but just maybe not as strong as I'd like them to be. I've always wanted to come up with some kind of corner protector things, like metal sleeves that go around the corners. I've never been able to locate a part like that that would work. Like some menus in restaurants have little metal sleeves around the corners to protect them, and kind of what I would want, but I want them to be permanent. I don't want them to like fall off. So I've trying to brainstorm a way to keep them on there. Glue probably wouldn't really do it. Maybe epoxy glue would, but not too many things stick to metal, so I have to get special fabricated sleeves with little pins that stick through the book boards or something to keep them on there permanently. Thought of using rivets or something like that. I don't know. Okay, I think that's in place well enough. Now I like to pull these tiny little corners in before I do the sides. I didn't remember to sand off the corners a little extra to allow for this bit. The corners will be a little bit sticky outy, whiter than the rest of everything. Most people wouldn't notice though. It's not a big deal. Okay, let's do the end here. It's not wanting to stick. Might not have got enough glue on there. Ooh, takes all the force that you can muster, all your strength. Really hard. Hurts your fingers too. Be nice to have some kind of stamping rubber tool to do this with, so I don't destroy my fingers. Corners aren't perfect, but I'm happy with them. Good enough. Okay, let's glue these little overlapping things down first. I just cut a little bit off here to make those corners turn a little better. Okay, now we're ready to do the last edge here. Whew, stressful. I'm sweating. The last and most stressful part is gluing this whole cover onto the text block, or the pages of the book inside. Have to get that right. If you don't line it up, then the whole thing looks sloppy. It's not going to be ruined necessarily, but I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to aligning the book cover, so I always want it to turn out perfect. It usually does, but this, and it actually always does if I do the small books, but I'm doing a very different process for this big one, so it's not sure how it's going to work. Definitely would be nice to have some kind of tool to help with this bit. It's really rough. Okay, I think we're ready. Now the only thing, yeah, that pocket opens there. I don't know if that's good or bad, honestly. Might be kind of a mistake in the end, but let's see. I do want to get a slip of wax paper in there as it's drying though, and actually while I'm gluing it as well. Okay, let's do that real quick. And then I'm ready to glue the book together. Before I do that, I'm going to take a quick break and clean out my brushes in preparation for the final gluing. So I will be right back. Okay. Now I just have to figure this out. So I was sort of thinking about it as I was away. That little tube I made in the middle, I think it's going to be problematic. It's like I needed to make this side of it shorter than the side that I pasted out there, so so that it would be curved to fit this profile, but I couldn't have really predicted that. This might kind of wrinkle as I glue it to the inside of the book. Too wide now, even though it's flat when you have it flat, but when you start going like this, it makes that weird pockety thing, and it's maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, it's probably going to be odd. So you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. Focus. There, you can see that big wrinkle in it. I think what I might do is cut that down the middle and allow it to overlap itself as I'm gluing it. And I don't know what that's going to do, but I think that's what I have to try. Might turn out okay. Might do something weird. I think that's what I have to do though. So let me get a piece of paper to put in there. Gotta be adaptive, gotta think outside the box when you encounter these situations. The more you can predict in advance, the better, but sometimes weird things happen. You just have to kind of adapt, go with the flow. Go with the flow, get it? So I'm gonna stick this in there, but before I do that, I'm actually just gonna straight up cut this in half, right down the middle. Strange as that sounds. Let's see why in a minute, probably. Or this might flop. This might not work. My idea is to allow those to overlap. See how they're overlapping now as I curve this inward, and then I'll glue them at that stage, and then I'll recomplete the loop inside by doing so. At least in theory. So before I do that, though, I need to strategize how I'm going to position this book inside this cover so that it fits where it needs to be. I can kind of get a visual feel for how much overlap there will be. So I allowed a little extra more than I needed, and that means these are going to overhang more than they really should. So I could adjust those measurements next time I make a book of this size. because I kind of just arbitrarily added to those dimensions. Which if I don't make these overlap, then there'll be a big old gap back here, which I don't want. So I think what I'm going to do is stick it in the middle, which is not normal. Usually I stick it on one side and then fold it over the other side and glue. I think I'm actually going to stick it in the center like this first, place it there, and then pull these up and glue them, which is kind of the opposite of what I would normally do. So I need to figure out where that position is going to be so I can put little marks there and just slap it on. Get this centered first. This is not a normal thing though. I wouldn't recommend doing all these steps that I did in this particular instance because it was a trial and error thing, and it's turning out to have some errors in it. It'll be okay, but it's not going to turn out exactly how I wanted. The spine measurement is just too big. I added too much to it, so these are overlapping a lot more than I would like. Let's see, is that centered? I need more on this side. Okay, rather than doing it that way, I'm gonna backtrack here. Let me think here. I'm gonna put physical marks here. I think. This is getting complicated. I don't want to spend too much time on this either because I want to get this done before it starts to be a problem here. I'm just going to eyeball it, I think. I think I can see where the middle is. Just kind of put it there. Perfectly honest, this is kind of a disaster. Not working out how I thought. I think I'll be able to pull this off and it'll be okay, I hope. But it's definitely not ideal, and I'll never do it this way exactly again. A lot of adjustments I need to make. I'm kind of glad I'm recording this so that I have a record of it, so I can go back and be like, wait a minute, what happened there? Oh yeah, don't do it that way. Oh man. This is crazy. I should have had the cover done by now, but with all this crazy junk happening, I had to adjust. Okay, so I want those in there so that the glue doesn't run through. Where's that other piece that just cut? Oh, I guess it's there. Okay, that'll protect that when I'm gluing this part. What else do I need to prepare for before I just jump straight into this? Oh, I didn't make those marks out wide enough apparently. Lovely. Okay, I think I'm ready to glue. I hope I don't mess this up. Okay, I'm gonna use one of these to glue this center part. I'll pull that out and then glue the book onto it. I think that makes sense. Yep, that should work. Whew, this is stressful. But I think I got it. Got it figured out. Kind of. Okay, I need both glues ready on the ready here. This is gonna be crazy. No, actually I'm gonna use the mix. Use the mix for everything. Hopefully this is enough. Might want to mix a little bit more just to be safe. Do not want to run out of this while I'm in halfway gluing mode here. Okay. This is going to be nuts, but I'm going to go for it. So, don't know if this will work or not. I'll glue this center piece first. Okay, here's the weird stressful part. Well, that is there. I need to lift these off. Get the second strips in there that don't have glue on them. Okay, and now while that is going, oh shoot, I need some wax paper here. Okay, set that aside. Glue these as quickly as possible. I got too much glue on there, honestly. Very watery, though. Okay, let's go for it. Oh, shoot. This is hard. Okay, just do it. Not gonna be perfect in every way, but I just gotta do it. Pure wackiness. Never glued a book with anything like this. This is insane. Made the cover way too wide, that's for sure. Gonna have to be good enough, though. That inner tube thing is a total loss. I don't know what to do about that. It'll be just one quirky thing about this book that I'll look back on and think, why did I do that? Because I can't really solve it right now. It'll be cut in half in there and I can't squeeze it back together like I was envisioning. It's not gonna work. So you'll just be able to see that cut in half thing down the center. It'll be like one of the quirkiest things I've ever done. There's no way to set it in place. Okay, we're as close to being done as I can figure it out to do. Far from perfect on this execution here, but we'll have to do. Now, one thing that I'm not sure of is if my normal book presses are big enough for this book. Possibly not. One thing I need to do is get these in there. The marble paper doesn't get glued. Okay, now I'm ready to put it in a book press, but I don't know if I have a big enough one. I'll have to go grab one of my larger ones, possibly. I don't think these are going to be... They might be just barely big enough. It would be awesome if it was. Might not be long enough on the screws. There's one with longer screws. Never knew that would come in handy. This book is a disaster. I had no idea. Everything seemed to be coming together really well until that very last realization of a couple things wrong. So the learning errors from this experience are, I need to figure out the cover width measurements better. I added some to them, and I think I didn't need to add anything to it. I don't remember how much I added though. I'll have to, hopefully I have that written down somewhere, or I guess I can watch my streams, this one and the previous one, because I did say it out loud, I believe. Okay. Just barely fits in there. Okay, that's good. I always wrap it with at least 1 or 2 layers of felt to kind of even out the pressure. And the other thing I'm gonna do, I did this on my very early books years ago, and I haven't done it since, but you can put these little things in here to set the shoulder of the book. May or may not actually work. I think I am gonna have to get a bigger book press. It's not big enough. Is it any wider? No. Okay, I'm gonna go get my bigger book press and I'll be right back. Okay, found my bigger book press. It's not lining up very well. It's probably one that was very tightly fitting, so I don't know if I'll be able to close it once I get these on there. This is one of, I think, the first book press I made, or one of the first. It's really huge for no reason. After this one, I started making small ones because I'm like, I don't need it to be that big. But I'm glad I made one this big. The only other problem, though, is that I didn't drill the holes big enough so they have a little bit of leeway to move around. So it's kind of annoying. Should re-drill those holes and then I could use this for bigger books. But I am glad I have it. Get these in there. These are very frustrating to use, honestly. These little sticks, rods, they don't stay in place very well, but I'm gonna try it. Have to kind of tighten the book press down, and then you can start positioning them. Okay, it's actually better fit than I thought. Screws are these bolts are barely long enough to get around this huge fat book. I have no idea what this is going to turn out like. I don't think it's destroyed though. It's definitely a usable book. I just think there might be, I know there's errors on it. The question is whether those errors will be visible in the finished product or not. I think possibly. Most obvious visible error will be that the edges of the cover will be overlapping considerably more than I like to see, but it's not necessarily an error to most people's eyes. To me it is, because it's not how I designed it to be, but functionally it won't alter how the book works, and it won't be ugly necessarily. It'll just be annoying to me. I'll look at it every time I look at this book. I'll remember like, oh, that book was such a pain to make. Actually, it was fine until the very end. Oh shoot, before I tighten this up too much, I need to check the position of those rods. They actually look like they're about in the right position, maybe. Nope, not on this side. Actually kind of need thicker rods than these because this cover material is so thick, but they'll make some kind of an impression there. I don't really have anything else to use. And then I just leave this to dry like for at least 8 hours overnight. Those rods should be like twice as thick as they are just because the cover material is so stinking thick, but it'll be fine. Not perfect by any means, but we'll see next stream. I'll show it completed. I open this up after it's dry, and won't be perfect to my satisfaction, but I think it'll be fine. So yeah, I think that's it for this stream. Whew, that was really stressful. Way worse than it should have been. I caused issues for myself. I don't know about that whole tube thing in the middle. There's probably a way to do it without those stress issues I had, but that kind of made the whole thing a burden, and it messed up. Did it wrong. There is my other rubber band. Okay. Whew, that was crazy. Ew. Didn't like that. That's what makes bookbinding stressful, is when you're experimenting with something and then you realize you made a mistake and then you're frantically trying to fix it. Like, I could have just pressed that on there and ignored the big wrinkle that would have occurred that I was demonstrating earlier, where the one side of the tube was like waving, you know, like woo. Oh shoot, my chroma key has been messed up this whole time too. Let's fix it so that next time it's not like that. Oh man. But yeah, if I would have pushed that on there without cutting that down the middle of the tube and letting it do its thing, it would have had this really bad, wrinkly, messed up thing in the center. So I think what I did was a good fix. It didn't really fix it. It still had its own problem afterwards, but it would have been much worse if I didn't do that. I just didn't really realize that folding the cover in would shorten the length of that one side of the tube so much. Like, it's a huge difference. It's so much shorter than the other side of the tube. It's crazy. It's like a whole centimeter shorter at least. It's insane. So yeah, so regarding those tubes, I think what you have to do is put the tube on the spine. I think that's what most people do too, is they paste the tube on the spine instead of pasting it on the cover. I think that's where I went wrong. So yeah, that probably would have solved everything if I did that. Anyway, you live and learn. It'll turn out okay. It's just the tube won't even serve any real purpose in its current form, but that's all right. Okay, well, I think I'll end this stream. By the way, yes, I am a floating head. I'm wearing a, probably seen it earlier, but I'm wearing a blue shirt, and it's close enough to green that my chroma key effect is disappearing in my shirt. Anyway, no visitors as usual on Glimesh. That's fine. I don't mind at all. So really, it's, even though this is a live stream, there's like zero interaction, and it's almost like a, I mean, I'm uploading it to YouTube and Odyssey, like I mentioned earlier, and it won't even look like it was a live stream because there's no chat or anything. But that's all right. That's how it's gonna be for a while, until I might decide to restream on Odyssey, where there could potentially be more people. We'll see. I don't know how to do that currently because FTL RTMP issues, but eventually they're working on having RTMP on here on Glimesh too, and then I can more easily restream, I think, because I don't want to pay for a Aircast account, which is the only way to currently do it. Anyway, well, there's probably other ways, but yeah, you get it. Anyway, I'm going to sign out for today, and I'll catch y'all next time.